Hello, hello, hi, folks. Welcome. Happy Monday, in hopes that you squeezed more out of your day than the day squeezed out of you. Welcome. Good to see you. I am Sean Azimi with SideGigSean.com, and I welcome you to this live. So, I have an interesting live for you today. One of the folks that I listen to often, and I love her analogies and the way she speaks. Her name is Shadi Zahrai, and I think that's her last name. I could be wrong on the last name, but I think it's correct. And she does small skits, right? And these are like brilliant. The stuff she drops is so good. So there's been a phrase that I've used all the time, even in my lives. And the other night I used it. And I've used it on my sales pitch. I've used it all the time. So, and it's and she did a skit on this a while back, and I've been meaning to share this thought, but she did a skit on why not to say the statement, right? And it's so good. It makes so much sense that I got to share it with you. T Money, the birthday boy, well into his birthday. Happy birthday, bro. It's still like, it's still 10:05 here. So he's technically over here is still, you got a birthday going on. So happy birthday. But yeah, so this statement, the statement is, does that make sense? Like, I have used that all the time on my lives and conversations and sales pitches, all this stuff, right? Does that make sense? Now, the reference she makes to this is this. Once you talk about when you share a thought, right? And as I do in my lives, I share this, what I think is amazing thought, principle, this value, this idea, right? I share this with you, if you would, and then I come to the end of it and I say, does that make sense, right? Or you share a thought or you share a story and then you say, does that make sense? So what that does, it kind of does two things, and she made me realize this, is that one, it may sound like you're not even convinced that that information makes sense yourself. So you're looking for validation, right? You're like, does that make sense? You're like, in reality, maybe you're looking for validation for somebody to say, yeah, that makes sense. And you're like, oh, God, that makes total sense, right? So that could be one way that it's perceived that, hey, this guy is not even convinced that his stuff is good anyway. So when you say, does that make sense? He's asking for validation. Or the other way is that the other person may be taking it personal, thinking that when you say, does that make sense? That maybe you're thinking that they don't have the competence to get what you're saying. So maybe they're not understanding you, or they're not all up there. They're not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Maybe that's what you're implying, right? So, right? Crazy, right? I never thought about it. I've used this statement all the time. I never thought about it, and it totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. And, when you share this beautiful thought, this beautiful story, this concept, this principle, and then all of a sudden at the end you're like, oh, does that make sense? It's like, are you even convinced that it does make sense, right? Now, are you like convinced that the other person gets it? Like, are they like all there, So the best way to validate your point or get participation, if you would, because that's really the goal you want, right? Is this: ask for their input or give them an opportunity to ask questions if they're not clear about what you shared. For example, you say, well, blah, 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 blah. Instead of saying, does that make sense? Say, I'd love to hear what you think about this. How beautiful is that? That's so smart. I'd love to hear what you think about this. If you have any ideas, any thoughts about this, I'd love to hear them. Right? Or do you have any questions? Would you like me to clarify anything? That's funny. Team Money, I like that. That's good, Team Money. I'm glad. You drop in jokes on your birthday. I'm glad, little guy. I'm glad. So, I was just going to say it. I'd love to hear your input on this and see, what do you guys think about this, right? Does that make sense? Does that kind of reduce the importance or the oomph that it needs, right? And I think it does. The best way to do it is, as she recommends, is to ask that, hey, do you have any questions? I'd love to hear your input or your take on this, right? So I hope that you guys got some love, some inspiration, some value from this live. I appreciate you guys. Some of you send me some really nice messages, and I cannot thank you enough. That stuff drives me. I love it. So please continue. I appreciate it. Drop your thoughts, your comments, your feedback. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know if you've tried this or you're going to try it, and like, how did it turn out? You know what I mean? Because I'm definitely gonna try it, put it to use. So I appreciate you guys, and if you feel like this was worthy of sharing, do what you gotta do. Spread the love. I am Sean Azimi with SideGigSean.com, signing off until tomorrow when we do it all over again. Much love.